They weren't the first to do this. It was Blake Lively, it was Ryan Reynolds. This was their strategy. And now they kind of want to put the genie back in the bottle. But guess what? The genie does not want to go back in the bottle.
But guess what? The genie refuses to go back inside the bottle. Ryan Reynolds went completely ballistic after getting slammed by Fox News for firing a makeup artist and proving that he's equally pathetic, narcissistic, and controlling as Blake Lively.
He revealed a source that says he had quite an experience demanding his makeup artist show up or get fired. I'll share that story.
They revealed his ugly behavior and knocked him down a peg because, let's be honest, this guy has absolutely no right to dismiss people simply because he cannot control his temper.
So gross and weird and manipulative, even if it's true. It's so... Just, this movie somehow was a magnet for awful people.
Ryan Reynolds, the supposed Hollywood funny guy, got completely roasted by Fox News. Turns out this man isn't the lovable, sarcastic Deadpool goofball. He pretends to be nope. He's simply a power-hungry, insecure control freak who thinks he runs Hollywood.
Ryan Reynolds, by all accounts, seems like a great guy. He is acting. By all accounts, he is a total pain.
And if you thought that was an exaggeration, let me introduce you to the moment he threw a ridiculous tantrum and tried to destroy a makeup artist's entire career because they had the nerve to be unavailable for a reshoot. Yeah, we're talking full-blown Hollywood dictator meltdown over some foundation and powder.
He's one of those guys. So they are absolute bullies.
This whole situation came to light on Fox News' Kennedy Saves the World podcast, where an insider from the studio revealed that during the filming of Deadpool 2, Ryan's personal makeup artist wasn't available because they were overseas, you know, like a normal person who occasionally has to work on other projects.
Ryan Reynolds on the Enneagram is a psycho. That's what he is. He's just a psycho. His number is psycho.
But instead of simply hiring literally any other makeup artist in Hollywood, because it's not like makeup artists are some rare breed of mythical creatures, Ryan reportedly lost his temper and told the artist, if you don't return, you will never work in Hollywood again.
Reynolds had to do some reshoots for the movie. His makeup artist was out of the country working. Ryan Reynolds threatened to fire the makeup artist off the rest of the film and the reshoots they had to do, and also said, if you don't come back and do my makeup for these reshoots, you will never work in Hollywood.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is he a studio executive now? Is he running 20th Century Fox, who gave this guy the power to blacklist someone from an entire industry over a scheduling issue? The funniest part, Fox executives were reportedly annoyed, but they had no choice but to comply because Reynolds had already seized full control of the movie. This man was making career-ending threats over a bit of powder and contouring. Imagine the level of ego and narcissism that requires. And honestly, we shouldn't even be surprised because this is exactly how Ryan Reynolds operates.
He was beforehand. Everyone knows who he is now. If he is a smart sociopath, he'll work that to his advantage.
This guy has built a career by acting like the relaxed, easygoing, funny dude, but the second he gets behind the scenes, he becomes a full-blown Hollywood tyrant. Just look at what happened with the Deadpool franchise itself. The original Deadpool was directed by Tim Miller, who helped bring the entire vision to life. But guess what? Tim didn't make it to Deadpool 2. Why? Because Ryan Reynolds demanded complete control over the entire project.
Ryan used his nice pool character in Deadpool and Wolverine to mock Justin Baldwin.
Miller later admitted Ryan wanted total control, and I wasn't willing to fight every single decision. Translation: Reynolds became an overgrown toddler who refused to compromise and pushed an actual director out of his own movie.
Blake Lively, her brand, Ryan Reynolds' brand, have totally been tarnished by this because the world now sees them for who they are. They cannot act their way out of this.
And let's not forget how he treats his co-stars. If you think this dude is simply bothering makeup artists and directors, think again. He actively sidelines and humiliates actors if they dare to challenge him. Case in point, Marina Beckern, aka the lead actress from Deadpool, who went from playing Wade Wilson's entire love interest in the first movie to being reduced to an afterthought in Deadpool 2. Why? Because apparently she had a disagreement with Reynolds on set. And let's just say Ryan Reynolds does not handle disagreements well. Rather than dealing with it like a professional, he made sure Marina was iced out of press events, completely excluded her from promotional tours, and left her out of all premiere group photos. You would think she wasn't even in a movie if you looked at the red carpet events. But this is what power-drunk Ryan Reynolds does. He picks fights, then erases anyone who gets in his way. And it's not just the Deadpool cast. TJ Miller, who played Weasel in Deadpool, also came forward and said Ryan Reynolds was genuinely mean to him on set, And not in a joking way, this man is a comedian, and even he couldn't pretend Ryan's behavior was funny. He straight up admitted he was strangely mean to me, not as a joke, just genuinely rude.
Deadpool, where he said, let's do one more take. And everyone was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then as the character, he was like horrifically mean to me, but to me.
Cathartic.
As if I'm...
Imagine being so intolerable that even comedians think you're crossing the line. Reynolds allegedly treated him terribly on set, belittling him before the crew and reminding him that he was merely a supporting character and not the star.
It was like, you know what's great about you, Weasel? You're not the star. But you just, you do just enough exposition that it's funny, and then we can leave and get back to the real movie.
And what's wild is Ryan's not even subtle about his control issues. They've been exposed repeatedly, even beyond Deadpool. Take Rebecca Ferguson, who had a terrible experience with an insecure, angry actor while filming a movie. Now, she never named names, but let's connect the dots real quick. The movie was Life 2017, and her co-stars Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal. And since Jake is still out here minding his business, all eyes are on Ryan as the angry little man she supposedly had to deal with.
A film with an absolute idiot of a co-star, and this human being was being so insecure and angry because this person couldn't get the scenes out, and I think I was so vulnerable.
Ferguson said she was so uncomfortable on set that she refused to perform directly with this person anymore. Instead, she simply demanded to act toward a tennis ball rather than looking at them. Imagine being so unbearable that your own co-star refuses to even acknowledge your existence on camera. That's a whole new level of toxic. But it gets worse. After speaking out, Rebecca received calls from colleagues warning her that she had gone too far.
I was so vulnerable and comfortable that I got screamed at. But because this person was number one on a call sheet, there was no safety net for me. So no one had my back.
Gone too far. She just told the truth about a terrible work environment, and suddenly people were acting like she had committed treason. This is how Hollywood protects the worst people. They silence victims and keep enabling powerful actors like Ryan Reynolds because they don't want to rock the boat. Meanwhile, Ryan gets to keep throwing tantrums and treating people like garbage without consequences.
And I remember the next day I walked on and I said, you get off my set. This is the first time I've ever spoken. I remember being so scared. Yes. And I looked at this person and I said, you can F off. I'm going to work towards a tennis ball. I never want to see you again.
And let's not overlook what happened with Jake Gyllenhaal. He and Ryan were once extremely close, doing interviews together, making jokes, Hollywood besties, right? Well, not anymore. When asked about Reynolds recently, Jake completely shut down, refused to say one word, and looked visibly annoyed. The interviewer tried to push him, and he coldly said, I have nothing to say about him. That's not normal friend behavior. That's someone who is finished with your nonsense.
Any words for Ryan, seeing as the next time we talk to him, he will be seeing that.
I have nothing to say to him.
And honestly, who can blame him? It's becoming painfully obvious that Ryan Reynolds is not the quirky, funny, lovable guy he pretends to be. He's simply another power-obsessed Hollywood narcissist who has zero patience, zero humility, and a massive ego that nobody is allowed to challenge.
Ongoing feud with Ryan.
Who?
You know that guy. What's it gonna take for him to actually be BFFs with you?
Well, I mean, in truth, there was a time in which we...
Every single person who has worked with him and dared to speak out has described him as controlling, rude, and insecure. From makeup artists to co-stars to directors to his own ex-wives, the pattern is undeniable. Ryan Reynolds is not the nice guy of Hollywood. He's simply a self-absorbed, power-hungry bully who finally got exposed.
Tina encountered a rude celebrity once. We don't want to say.
Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds were once Hollywood's favorite bromance, laughing on talk shows, trading inside jokes, and acting like they were two peas in a pod. But then Life 2017 happened, and suddenly Gyllenhaal wanted nothing to do with him. And when I say nothing, I mean absolutely zero interaction, zero acknowledgement, and zero interest in even pretending they had ever been friends. That level of disgust doesn't simply happen over a minor disagreement. Something major must have happened between them.
It's pretty obvious that he's not joking about not being friends.
Jake Gyllenhaal's reaction when questioned about Ryan Reynolds was absolutely ice-cold rejection. His expression dropped, his energy shifted, and he bluntly said, I have nothing to say about him. No fake Hollywood friendliness, no jokes, just outright dismissal. And let's be honest, Gyllenhaal isn't some drama-loving celebrity. This is the same guy who remained silent when Taylor Swift dragged him for 10 whole minutes in a song. But with Ryan, he couldn't even fake a polite response. The rumors all claim The same thing Reynolds is unbearable jealous and toxic, and Gyllenhaal finally saw through the fake nice guy act.
Now you see that Jake Gyllenhaal has also unfollowed Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds, and Blake Lively. But apparently he didn't unfollow them until they had already unfollowed him.
And if there's one thing Ryan Reynolds hates, more than not being the center of attention, it's being called out for being unfunny. Let's get something clear: his entire career is built on sarcasm. But sarcasm isn't a personality, and it sure as hell isn't genuine humor. This man isn't a comedic genius. He's simply a guy who figured out that if he says something in a deadpan voice and smirks, people will assume he's funny. But guess what? Plenty of people who worked with him aren't buying it anymore.
I'm really bad at keeping a straight face around TJ Miller. Everyone knows that on our set. We lost days to me.
TJ Miller, who genuinely knows what funny is, exposed Reynolds for who he really is. He didn't say Ryan is simply a fun-loving prankster or, oh, he jokes too much. No, he directly said Ryan Reynolds mocks people not to be funny, but to belittle them. That's not comedy. That's acting like a condescending jackass.
So he was like, what's great about you, Weasel? You're not the star, but you just, you do just enough exposition that it's funny, and then we can leave and get back to the real movie.
And it doesn't end there. Scarlett Johansson, his own ex-wife, essentially called him out for being the exact same way in their relationship. She described him as passive-aggressively jealous, which is simply a polite way of saying insecure, controlling, and unbearable. And considering he went from being married to Scarlett Johansson to quickly entering a relationship with Blake Lively, it doesn't take a genius to see how his fragile little ego couldn't handle being with a woman whose career was skyrocketing while his was going nowhere. Strangers describe me as extremely disloyal. And let's talk about the fact that Quentin Tarantino, one of the most respected filmmakers in the industry, absolutely blasted Ryan Reynolds and his Netflix cash grabs. In an interview, Tarantino didn't just lightly shade Reynolds, he completely dismissed his entire career. Ryan Reynolds has made $50 million on this movie, and $50 million on that movie. I don't even know what those movies are. Have you seen them? Translation: Ryan is making trash movies that nobody actually cares about.
Strangers describe me as
extremely disloyal.
And just when you thought that was the biggest insult, Ard Butler came through with a knockout punch when asked about Ryan Reynolds' movie Free Guy. Butler didn't even pretend to know what it was. He simply said, "I don't know what that is. I don't watch his movies." Imagine being in Hollywood for decades, promoting yourself nonstop, and having major actors openly admit they don't even recognize your work. If that's not humiliating, I don't know what is.
And then I think I don't know. I mean, would I work with him again? No.
No,
I would not work with him
that
again.
much vitriol.
And you know what? It's not just actors calling him out, it's filmmakers too. The legendary Chris Columbus, the guy who gave us Home Alone and Harry Potter, publicly blasted Reynolds for trying to ruin a classic movie. Ryan thought it would be a great idea to make a stoner version of Home Alone called Stoned Alone. Yes, that was actually a thing. He pitched Chris Columbus, a man who actually respects cinema, said it's an insult to cinema. He needs to leave classic films alone. And that's exactly why so many Hollywood actors and filmmakers have stopped acknowledging him altogether. When's the last time you saw a respected director say they wanted to work with Ryan Reynolds? When's the last time you saw a major actor who isn't contractually forced to praise him publicly? You don't, because most of Hollywood has already figured out what the rest of the world is just now starting to realize. Ryan Reynolds is an insecure, ego-driven nightmare who burns bridges everywhere he goes.
Why is Ryan doing this? And the other weird thing is, like, maybe he got, I think he's kind of an insecure dude.
Let's be honest, even his so-called fans are beginning to see through him. His sarcastic humor that once seemed witty and charming is now coming across as mean-spirited and exhausting. His constant need to control every project he's in is starting to appear less like creative passion and more like a desperate need for power, and his entire public persona, this nice guy routine, is collapsing before our eyes.
myself I've learned to love is...
The thing about myself that I've learned to love is insecurity. That's a real answer. Yeah, insecurity.
At this point, Ryan Reynolds isn't simply losing friends in Hollywood, he's losing the goodwill of the public. And when the only people left defending you are paid PR firms and diehard fanboys, you know your fake Hollywood empire is finally beginning to collapse. Scarlett Johansson really tried to warn everyone, but nobody listened. She came out and said it plain and simple. Ryan Reynolds is a jealous, insecure control freak, and if you know anything about Scarlett, you know she's not one for unnecessary drama. But when she said when someone is passive-aggressively jealous, it shows insecurity, she wasn't just making some generic statement. she was talking about Ryan.
Looks like the guy that fucked your high school girlfriend.
But the absolute worst part, he didn't just leave Scarlett. He moved on to Blake Lively before the divorce was even final. Let's not sugarcoat this. Ryan met Blake on the set of Green Lantern while he was still married, and by the time his divorce papers were dry, they were already dating. This man wasted zero time moving on, almost like he had been lining up Blake as a backup option the entire time, and honestly, it makes perfect sense. Blake Lively is exactly the type of woman a fragile, insecure man like Ryan Reynolds would run to after being humiliated by an actual powerhouse like Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett was an A-list respected independent actress. Blake was a CW star trying to break into serious Hollywood roles. You think Ryan didn't see that and think, oh, finally a woman who won't overshadow me. This man was never going to survive in a marriage where he wasn't the star. And it's not just Scarlett, his other ex. Alanis Morissette also called him out for being a jealous, insecure mess. This man was engaged to Alanis for 3 years before he dumped her out of nowhere, and after their split, Alanis went and dropped an entire album, Flavors of Entanglement, inspired by their breakup. And one of the biggest lines, if I just say it's true, I'm unbelievably insecure, really broken, devastated, then I can move through it. Oh look, there's that word again, insecure, when two exes, one a Hollywood superstar and the other a Grammy-winning musician, both say the same thing about a guy. Maybe, just maybe, he's actually the problem. And what do you know, Blake Lively, the perfect wife that Ryan left Scarlett for, is now getting dragged into his PR mess too. For years, Blake and Ryan have been doing this annoying PR campaign where they pretend they have the quirkiest, cutest, most perfect marriage in Hollywood. Every time they're in the news, it's because one of them posted some forced, painfully unfunny joke about each other on Instagram, like a couple of middle schoolers. And people ate it up for years, but now people are starting to see through it.
I don't even know what world I live in, to be quite honest. But here is Antonio Brown announcing that he is performing at Firefest. They really should call it Firefest 1 since the first one.
Because here's the thing, no genuinely happy couple feels the need to constantly prove how much in love they are, and the fact that they do it every single time one of them faces a scandal or bad press, yeah, that's not natural, that's carefully calculated damage control.
He literally just took his helmet off and walked off the field. He made $100 million playing football, and he's dead broke now. So now he's a rapper, and like, God bless him, it sucks.
And let's not ignore the massive elephant in the room, Blake's own legal battle with Justin Baldoni. This woman has been in and out of court for months because of the messiest Hollywood lawsuit in years, and now Fox News and Hollywood insiders are coming for Ryan. Separately, they're not even being taken down as a power couple, they're individually crumbling.
Forward on Sunday, when are you going to get rid of daylight savings?
Okay. So he says the clocks are springing forward on Sunday. Is that this weekend? Oh my, I'm excited for that. It's been kind of dreary. I guess that means we made it out of the worst of the winter.
You ready?
And let's be honest, did Ryan Reynolds use Blake Lively to repair his image after his failed marriage with Scarlett? Because that perfect husband act didn't begin until he was with Blake. All of a sudden, he was the funny husband with the cute marriage and the Instagram jokes. It's almost like he needed an easier, more controllable relationship to rebuild his brand. And now, with Hollywood turning on him, what happens to Blake? Because let's be real, Blake Lively's career has never been strong enough to survive alone. She's been riding the wave of their power couple branding for years. But if Ryan's image collapses, what happens to her? And make no mistake, his reputation is falling apart. Hollywood has officially stopped protecting him. Fox News, of all places, just exposed him for being a toxic, controlling nightmare. Annette directors, co-stars, and even his own exes have all spoken out about his insane ego, his obsession with power, and his nasty attitude. And here's the funniest part, he spent his whole career pretending to be the funny guy everyone loved, and now even that persona is being destroyed. His comedy is being reconsidered, and people are realizing he's not actually funny. He's simply an insecure man who mocks others to hide his own flaws.
No question that, yes, Ryan Reynolds based his Deadpool Wolverine character, Nice Pool, with the man bun, on Justin Baldoni.
And now Hollywood actors are refusing to work with him. Directors are speaking out. His own best friend Jake Gyllenhaal won't even discuss him. And his exes, they've been saying the same thing for years. At this point, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are Hollywood's perfect couple. They're Hollywood's biggest PR scheme. And the cracks are finally beginning to show. Ryan Reynolds' fake nice guy act is collapsing, and Hollywood is finally finished with his ego tantrums and toxicity. Subscribe for more Hollywood exposés, because the truth always comes out.